Hello, welcome back. Today we have Thibault, our good friend, and
Yep.
wanting to discuss a little bit about projects. That's kind of been on my mind lately, as I start a lot and finish very few. So I thought I'd pick his brain. Before we get into that, I was wondering if you had any thoughts on the Strat issue.
Ah, I was hoping we were gonna have some extra conversation like that, RG. Um, that's been fun to listen to. I don't know if you guys, just it's been fun following the whole thing. So far
Hmm.
as like, and no one's even played it yet.
Right.
Everybody's talking about it, and like no one's even touched it. They just seen like snippets of it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like leaning toward because I watched IDs Rant, which was awesome.
Oh
How
yeah,
do you-
you gotta love IDs Rant, whether you agree with him or not. He's entertaining to watch.
and my wife, who has zero interest in this stuff, she actually enjoyed the rant. So
Oh,
she
nice.
she thought it was like, "What is this guy? What's he mad about?" But um, I had to listen to Dave's show about it,
Hmm.
and Dave had a little more of a glass half full, and I'm kind of leaning towards that. I'm kind of leaning. Hopefully, like he put it pretty good. He said, hopefully, if they make money off of this, which I don't know if they are or they aren't.
Hmm.
But hopefully they put it back into their cards, like making
Right.
those seasons available and improving maybe the PC game or not. So I think these companies see all this like the other day, my 14-year-old daughter, she was on her phone playing that Monopoly Go that you see advertised
Hmm.
now. I guess it's popular with the kids, like teenagers, high school. I'm like, "What are you playing?" Like, "I'm on Monopoly Go here." And I'm like, she's playing a board game on her cell phone at age 14, so I think that's probably what Strat's shooting for, is that
What they're thinking about.
yeah, I get because that's what the kids are doing. The kids have the phones, and I guess they're just trying to go with the times. But then there's us, we like the cars, the tactile feel, and
Hmm.
I could see how people were angry about that. They feel like kind of left out in the cold. I was hoping also it would be we're releasing all the set seasons as well, but
Yeah, I think that was
wishful
probably
thinking.
a big part of it is that there was so much hype that they got
Yeah,
everybody's hopes built up.
yeah,
I think that if they would have maybe hyped it differently, I
yeah.
think that maybe it wouldn't have been the response. I was going to ask you, you're an app guy,
You're right.
and I watched your video at the last convention where is it John
Mhm.
Hershen? How you
Right,
pronounce?
right.
Uh,
Herson, yeah.
he did the Q&A.
Mhm.
And so I guess my first question would be is, as an app guy, do you see the discontent in the app community that you kind of see in the Strat? Um,
Uh, I get you.
you always have the knuckleheads who are going to be unhappy about everything,
Yeah,
but again, trying to watch it outside. Again, I'm obviously a Strat guy mainly, um,
right.
or at least historically. It doesn't seem to be that there's as much discontent in the APA
Yeah.
community, and I guess my if that is the case, I wonder if it's because John is so willing to discuss what he's doing, why he's doing it. I mean, you may not like what he
Yeah,
has to say, but at least you know where he stands.
right.
And
It's
I
not
was
like
just
a
wondering if,
mystery. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and you don't feel like that you're kind of left out in the cold.
Mhm.
And again, certain people are not going to be happy no matter what. But I just wonder if, from your perspective, do you find less content in the Apple community? And if so, if maybe that's because of his approach.
Uh, it, there has in the past, like years ago. I mean, if you look back at like just like 15 years ago, Appa's seasons offerings were similar to Strats. Like I don't know if you were playing much Appa back then, but
No.
it was very similar. The website wasn't the best. They didn't sell hardly any seasons. It also looked like almost identical to what Strats doing now, where you can't hardly buy anything, cards and dice, and people were selling I think you showed me that 95 set.
Mhm.
That set you got was probably worth like $400 back in like 15 years ago.
Holy
But
cow.
since but you know what Appa's done, and I think this eliminated a lot of their discontent, is they've released every season,
Mhm.
on baseball. They have every season in hockey. They don't have a lot of football seasons. Um, I think the main discontent you'll see in APA community right now is more around like they're looking for rules revisions, different updates to, like they say, the football game rules. The BBW, the computer game fans, they've been clamoring for an update to that for years, and who knows if they'll ever get it.
Hmm.
He does have AppAgo, which it's a slow trickle. It's improving a lot, but that's the pace of how that's going kind of frustrating. It's not as much as a strat, but I think it's because he does have all the seasons. I think that really tempers a lot of the anger about Appa, and I think that's what brings in a lot of customers to Appa is the fact that
Hmm.
they have all these seasons.
Yeah, I know. Again, I did a video, about it, and a lot of the comments were, yeah, I used to be a strat guy. I went to APBA because they have the seasons
Yeah,
available.
yeah,
So Kurt Berglund made a comment about how that he thought that they think that they drive sales by not having available, and there's truth to that. I mean, I was
yeah,
looking at
yeah,
Facebook this morning before we got on, and I think 1911 sold out, and there was all kinds of
yeah,
comments about, man, I wish I'd have grabbed that,
yep,
or
yep,
I'm going to get every season before, World War II before they go. So I,
right,
I think that there is something to be said for that model, but I really
yeah,
think you disenfranchise a lot of your customer base with
yeah.
that model. So you lose business. So I wonder if it's, again, I think people do buy out of fear,
Mhm.
but I just wonder in the long run if it's a good business model.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard a rumor a few years ago, and this is just a rumor. I'm gonna say this is not facts at all. This is just something I heard from people that something happened where they lost all those card images, which I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. Where something
Hmm.
happened at the facility, so they can't just automatically print them out. But I don't know because the card images are on that app and everything. So I
Yeah,
don't know if it's a very labor intensive thing where they can't do it, or I don't know what it is.
well, I again, it scratches my head, makes me scratch my head, but I
Yeah.
really think it's their model. They
Oh, really?
feel like
Yeah.
that if they if they have a limited run that they'll
Mhm.
sell better. And again, I've bought lots of strat seasons
Yeah.
just because I was afraid they wouldn't be there later,
Right.
and
Right.
so I really think that's their how they run their business.
Yeah.
But I also, being a fan, it makes me want to like Atba more
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
that me, that's putting profit ahead of the customer. And, again, um, I'm on an Atba kick, playing a lot of Atba, really enjoying it.
Mhm.
And the fact that any season I want's available is a big deal. And
Yeah.
again, it may not be as big deal for other people, but John doing the Q&A. I mean, he was on with you and
Mhm.
Dave and Ron.
Right.
I don't think anybody from Strat would touch that with a 10-foot pole. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, they don't
and
have that connection like it's always a like John really emphasized that the family, the community. I mean, he's really that's his he really tries to focus on that with running APA. Is like it's
mhm,
not just the game, it's the community of everybody, all the gamers involved, and I think that shows what he's doing there.
yeah.
And
Again,
something
go ahead.
I'll say something you mentioned earlier about and then Dave mentioned this too about using the collectability as a selling point, like with the limited, like you mentioned, the business model.
Hmm.
I was thinking back of the old Strat boxes. You may remember this. Like it would say, not only is it a 3 games in one, but it's also a collector's item, and it would like
Right.
tell you like someone would sell the 1951 set for $400, and it was like
Yeah.
right on their box, I think.
Yeah. No,
So
I mean, I've heard that is kind of, what they use to explain kind of
yeah.
what they're doing. But, it when they'll re-release seasons sometimes. So
Hmm.
again, it feels like that they're kind of playing both ends against the middle.
Yeah.
I know like the black set and then that all-star set they came out with, those were definitely they sold those as collector's items.
Right. Right.
So there's probably some of that involved. But and
Yeah.
again, you're going to have people who are not going to be happy no matter what. But I mean, like replay, again, the
Yeah.
way they run business is just so good.
Right.
Joe at
Mhm.
at sideline,
2 good guys.
staff
Yep.
pitch, they are, and I think that they do a much better job of listening to the community
Mhm.
and trying to give people what they want, and so I'm all for building the business, but again, I just can't see how um, you know not taking care of your current customers is a good way to do that. But
Right.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you had any thoughts on the matter. It's
Um, I'll tell you what, someone mentioned earlier, I think Ron mentioned this on his call, Dynasty League Baseball. I
Mhm.
had that on my phone and tablet for a while, for about last year. I actually just got rid of it because I don't have time to play it, but that's actually exactly what I think the Strat fans were hoping this would be. Because I don't know if you ever looked at it.
I
It's
haven't.
Dynasty League is fantastic. You could play it on tablets. It's everything, the phone, and it would actually be a port of the game. So you actually saw that it showed you the card. It flashed the result. It showed the even dice rolls. It kept the stats. It was a very nice presentation with the crowd noise and everything. It's fantastic. I mean, if you like Dynasty League, it's still out there. I think it's like 14.95 a month. It's subscription based, and you get like 30 some seasons.
Hmm.
But it's fun. I mean, you just gotta like Dynasty League, and it's a really detailed type game, but
Right.
it's a game, and I think that's what people were hoping this Strat Max would have been, but it looks like it's kinda just a, pitch, point and click thing, so hopefully they
Right.
improve it, though. I mean, like Dave said, hopefully
Hope
that's
so.
just the beginning and it gets improved.
Yeah, and I imagine they will.
Yeah, yeah,
Again, I mean, I think most of us would like to see the improvement in the PC game.
yeah, yeah,
But again, hopefully, again, those of us who aren't real crazy about this are hoping, like you said, that it will generate revenue, and then they'll pour it back
yeah,
into But I'll be honest. One thing I'm the trying to get seasons and things like
mhm.
that. That's starting to wear on me. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, 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 yeah.
it's just like if there's a season you want, and like I think one big thing is that we're not getting younger. And
Right,
so
right, someone put the yep,
if
yep,
you're a strat guy and you're really wanting to play 1975,
mhm,
and they're trickling one season out a year,
right.
you're like, well, you know what? I'm not going to be here forever. It may be time to try another game.
Yeah, and then you look at the eBay prices, and it's like, they're
They're
like
stupid.
charlatans over there, they want $400 for a thing. I was just on
Yeah.
there this morning looking at, like I was looking at old football app of football, I was looking at, like, boards, I was trying to
Hmm.
get the old previous boards, I have 'em photocopies of the old boards, and, they guys wanted, like, 200, $300 for the old
Oh
game
yeah.
from 1983.
Yeah.
So
No, it's crazy. I mean, and um, strat is. I mean, again, somebody had said, matter of fact, that about that 1911. That's well, it's
mhm.
$250 on eBay now.
Well, yep, yeah, that's
So, but at any rate,
it's
so
kind of funny though, because I have that '82 Strat set that they issued like about 45 years ago,
the
and
one
then they
they,
sold out.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
and then I was thinking, "Okay, this is like a cash cow, like, someday I could probably cash this thing in." Then they did that drop a couple weeks ago,
right.
I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
there goes my money."
and that's like I said, that's the mixed messages. They
Yeah,
keep if you're doing the collectors thing, they're not they've reissued 69, I think, 3 times,
uh-huh,
and it keeps selling out. And so, and again, I mean, if you've got the original 69, even when they update it to super advanced,
yeah,
that's going to hurt the 69 because a lot of
yeah,
people like myself, I don't care. I would prefer the newer version.
yeah,
Again, I'm not a collector, I'm a player,
yep,
and so, but at any rate, it is what it is.
yep,
And and it's good that we got options. Again, if you
right,
want to play 75, there's a lot of other games. I guess the thing is that if you're, I think ID had a very good analogy, and that was the bad marriage.
uh-huh, yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah,
really
yeah,
good way to put it, because if you're really married to
mhm,
Strat, you're going to have some problems. Whereas if you're willing to cheat on Strat and have an affair with Atba, or payoff pitch, you can do just fine.
That's funny. Yeah, sneak off in the middle of the night, roll a couple,
Yeah.
66s.
Don't look how.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. So, main reason I wanted to talk to you
Mhm,
is talk about projects. Um, those of you have followed the channel know that I have started a lot and finished very little,
mhm,
and so I know that you have. I know you got your steroid thing that's been a
mhm.
long time, long term, and you've made some really good headway there. Um, so I guess
Yeah,
before we start, the things that I have finished, I did a 1983 Astros with cards and dice strat when I was a kid.
mhm,
I did 87 Astros with micro league. I did the 53 Braves with diamond mine baseball,
mhm.
and those are the only three things that of substance that I've ever completed.
So that was
So
that
what?
was 1 cards and dice, and that was 2 computer
Right.
replays?
Hmm.
Yeah,
So now I'm
yeah,
to the point where I have to have the cards and dice. That's why
yeah.
like the max thing just doesn't interest me. I don't like pushing buttons. Even if the cards are on the screen, like
Mhm.
replay baseball, which is
Right,
it's cards and dice on the computer.
right,
It's just something weird that I want the cards in my hand. And
right.
they give it a sense of, it doesn't feel like you're pushing buttons
Mhm.
and you're rote. Again,
Right,
having the cards in hands, it actually, it's weird, but it gives the players personality. You
right.
know, their cards, ATBA or Strat. The cards are different.
Mhm,
And they, especially with ATBA, you've got the biographical information
mhm.
on there. So again, it just, so however, I do need the aids because keeping stats by hand and everything. But anyway, before we get
Right.
into all that, what have you completed? So what major projects would
Um,
you say that you've completed?
well, I think my journey started when I started getting back into APBA. It was, like, around when my son was born, about, like, 2002 he was born, and before I hadn't played much any games at all for about 4 or 5 years before that.
Hmm.
And, so when he was born, I said, "Well, I had to stay I have to stay at home, you have your kids, little they're small, you can't go out and party like you used to." So, I took out and I still my old APBA game, and I pulled it out, and, the thing with APBA, if you remember, I don't know if you've seen them, but those testimonials they used to have years ago,
Hmm.
they used to advertise, like, say, that you would see these guys complete full season replays, and then even on their advertising, it would say, "Complete the whole MLB schedule this year if you wanted to." So they didn't really tell you that's how you had to play Appa. That was just like you saw other guys doing that, and just the
Hmm.
idea of that was like, wow, like you play every single game of the season. That's like wild. And so what I did start small, kind of like how like what you did with the single team replays. I did a 2003 Expos replay, but one of my friends, he actually's quit the sport hobby altogether, but he started an 2001 replay about the same time, and he would always say, "This is going to take me till I'm like 80 years old to do." And he was like 35 at the time.
Hmm.
So, who wants to spend like 50 years on like one season? He
Right.
was and he would always talk about how it would take him that long to do it. And he was like a one game a week type gamer. So I'm like, well,
Hmm.
yeah, if you're going to play one game a week, it's going to take you till you're 80 years old.
Right.
So it kind of got under my skin, like, well, I'm going to kind of prove my friend wrong here. And it's kind of like what a lot of gamers do is they start replays because it's fun setting up the replay. I mean, that is
Hmm.
so much fun.
Yep.
Like getting those teams together, getting your car, your accoutrements, like you say,
Hmm.
getting like your stat books together, getting everything together. It's so much fun playing it opening day.
Hmm.
And then after you play opening day, it's kinda like, okay, now we're on the second day." Like, then it's like, it starts like you start getting like, I can
Actually,
play a week." You've been there.
the end of April into May is on
Yeah.
the baseball schedule is when it starts getting difficult.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And so what I was in the same boat a lot of gamers were. I was starting replays. I would actually start a full season, and then I would just like, it would just fizzle out and like, "Let's go to another season. Let's go."
Hmm.
That kinda got old. I was kinda like it made me feel empty, like, I was kinda like, like you keep starting this, and it's like you're not finishing anything. And there was a guy then. I've mentioned this on Dave and Ron's, and I was on their show. There was a guy on Delphi. He's since passed away. His name was Keith Russell,
Mhm.
and this guy would um, play like full replays in like 2 months. Like he would play a 1964 like National League, and he would get the whole thing done within like 2 months.
Wow.
And the guy was kind of a little bit of a he was a little bit loony, but he would play like 20, 30 games a day. And he was retired, of course,
Mhm.
and he would just I don't know if his wife had no problem with it, or I know he had no family then, but he would just crank out game after game after game after game, 20, 30 days, 2 months in a row. Like, wow, this guy did this in 2 months. And he would start another season. It would just every year he would complete like 3 or 4 full league full replays. I'm like, how is this guy doing this? And I asked him, and I actually got it. This is like probably 15 years ago or so, like in the Delphi, probably around 2006, 4 or 5. That's however long that is. But I was trying to understand how he was doing this because that was my goal. Like I kept quitting replays. I wanted to finish something. And I looked at his methods, and it doesn't work for everybody. Is he actually what he would do is he would keep score about 3 or 4 games on a page on a piece of graph paper or whatever,
Mhm.
and he wouldn't add up any stats at all until he got to like the end of the month of the play he played. So he would play
Mhm.
all of April, and he would just and they would take a couple days. He would just throw all the stats in an Excel spreadsheet. And then he would go and do the next month. And then he would do the same thing, play like whatever, however many games that is, like 180 games. He would do one league at a time. That was a key there is it's one league at a time. And he would
Okay.
just crank whatever it is, 189,
Mhm.
90 games, then add up the stats. And if you do that like 6 times in a row, you have a full league replay. Then he would go over to the National League. So he would start with the American League, then he would go to the National League. And I kind of took that idea and I thing is with full replays is we only have so much time to commit to this
Right.
hobby, there's only so much like uh if you're married, if you have kids, if you're working, you can only have so much time in a day that you can commit to it.
Mhm.
So what I did was I could probably play while I'm working with my children. I could play like one game a day, like Monday through Friday, maybe at night. But then on the weekends, I could get up early and I could really crank out like a ton of games, probably like 6 to 8 in the morning on like a Saturday and Sunday morning. And
Mhm.
what I would do is, so I started 2006 American League Replay, and probably right at 2006. It was Christmas 2006 when it came out, and it took me about 18 months to complete it. And I just did his system, in just the American League.
Mhm.
And it worked. And actually, I just did his keeping it on paper. After I saved a month, I would do take me a week or two to add the stats in. Then I would play another month, and then would just another month and another month. Um, so end result now. So I've done '06 AL. Then I did the '94 National League, which was always my favorite season because the Expos. Like your Reds did pretty good in that replay too. I know
Mhm.
Kevin Mitchell and those guys are really
Yeah.
good. I did 1981 American League because that was like right. I was 10 years old. That's like your 10 years old season.
Right.
That was fun. Then I did 93 National League. Then I did 1980 National League. Then I did 95 American League. Then I did all of '87. I did '87 American League and '87 National League. That was my only full. That's my only year where I've done both leagues.
Okay.
And then so right now on this steroid era, I'm working on I'm up to almost to August on 1993 National League. But the thing is with completing replays is it's not for everybody.
Mhm.
And I also equate it to like almost like training for a marathon because it's a marathon. Like you're gonna spend a lot of time like a marathoner hits that wall,
Mhm.
like at mile 15. You're gonna hit walls with replay or with marathons. And just prepping for a marathon takes months, just kind of getting you're going to hit a lot of games where it's not involving teams that are even involved. They even interest you.
Hmm.
But I think what gets you through it is at the end of a replay, when you complete the whole thing, the payoff is so immense. It's like it's an unbelievable feeling because you played every single game and you get to these playoffs of this replay that you did, and it's like tension. It's like, and you remember these dice rolls. Like I
Right.
remember, it's like it actually, almost like it actually happened. I mean, it sounds kind of wacky, but it's
No,
almost
I
like
get it.
you think of Carlton Fist's 1975's
Hmm.
home run, and I'm thinking of Andre Dawson won the national. Like my Expos actually won a replay. Andre Dawson hit like an RBI single in the eighth against the Astros, and it like gave the Expos the lead. And like I remember that roll. My palms were sweaty. I was like
Yeah.
really nervous. Like, are the Expos going to hold on and win this? And you remember these things, and it's just such a great feeling. But it's not for everybody. I'd say it's the payoff is immense. That's all I could really say. It's like when you get to that September, especially, and you got like your games on your schedule, and you see, okay, this team won, this team lost, this team's bank gained on this team. You've actually created this whole pennant race. You've created this whole batting race. You've created it all yourself, and it's amazing. It's like at the end of the whole thing, you're just like, this is like awesome. It's just like a feeling you don't get just by doing like a playoff replay or something like that.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly the kind of info that I'm thinking, look, interested in is that,
Mhm.
yeah, I, like you mentioned earlier, you just felt like that you wasn't completing anything.
Yeah.
And again, I like the marathon.
Mhm.
I like the season as it evolves.
Mhm.
And I saw a YouTube video. It was about creating a habit, and it was
Right,
like you
right.
got the honeymoon period,
Yep.
where everything's all sunshine and roses. You're
Right.
motivated, and
Right, right.
then you hit the wall.
Yep.
And they said that if you can overcome, I think 3 times, that it can make then it starts becoming a habit.
Mhm.
And then, of course, at the most habits we're trying to do is because we want our life to be better. And
Right.
then they talk about the payoff,
Right.
as once you get over the wall
Yeah.
and you get to your goal, then the
Mhm.
payoff is makes it worth it. And so that
It
sounds like
does.
that's very applicable to what we're talking here. And like you said, it's not for everybody, but I
Yeah.
know for me personally,
Mhm.
I mean, even doing a team replay
Mhm.
is those are a lot of fun,
Yep.
and finishing one of those would be great.
Mhm.
But doing, for me, always the grand prize has always been a full season replay,
Yep.
and so I know, for me, kind of experimenting with different games
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
see. And that's not a bad thing. It's
No.
like, I grew up with Strat, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, let's see what else is out there. Because the game engine, I think, has a lot to do with the kind of replays.
Mhm.
Like Dynasty League. What
Right.
I can tell about that, doing a full season replay with that
Yeah.
would be different than doing
Right.
basic APA. Now,
Right. Very
there's
much. Very much.
some people who like that,
Mhm.
but like for me, and this is one thing I was thinking about is when you're doing a different kind of replays, there's different roles. Are you wanting to do as an observer,
Mhm.
or are you wanting to do more of a manager?
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, and so the options available to you are vary. Like if you want to do Strat with the computer aid, you can be the manager, and the computer
Mhm.
can help you
Mhm.
replay same way. And again, I'm talking about cards and dice, and I can't see me doing a replay without some kind of aid.
Right. Right.
Like you said, doing the stats and all that, I probably would that would lose me fast.
Yeah.
So I personally, I want the cards and dice.
Yep.
I want the tactile. I want them in
Mhm.
my hand on my table, but I need something else to put the stats in, add the
Mhm.
stats, go back and look at the stats, create, have the schedule,
Right.
have, I tend to do as played when I'm, because
Mhm.
and there's, there's a big advantage to that because it's really interesting to see. You're not. It's like when you do a replay, you're replaying the players, but when you do as played, you're also replaying the manager.
Mhm, mhm.
Because you're seeing, okay, well, why'd they put this guy, at like 1969, the Giants start the season with Willie Mays leading off,
All right.
and so he's older, and it's like, well, that's
Yeah,
odd,
yeah, yeah.
and then you'll see, they'll have, like Robles for the '69 Padres,
Mhm.
he was their leadoff hitter for about 2 weeks, and then that didn't work out,
Yeah.
and then he's gone, and so, um, so I guess let's go back to the manager as opposed to
Mhm,
the observer.
mhm,
So that's why I really like at the basic is because if there's too many for me, if I'm doing both teams, if I have too many decisions, it locks me up.
mhm, mhm,
I don't enjoy that. So the thing about at the basic is that it tells me when to steal. It
mhm.
tells me he's going to take an extra base. The only decision I have to really make is if he's a slow runner, am I playing it safe? And generally speaking,
Right,
if there's less than 2 outs and they're behind, he's playing it safe. So
right, right.
you know that game really lends itself. Whereas like the APBA Master, which is I really appreciate you
Mhm,
helping me with that.
mhm.
But for me playing myself, that's just way too many decisions
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
It takes a while to get used to it too. The master game, you have to play it a lot and to get it going.
And probably in your
Yeah,
head, you probably have got some set standards,
yeah.
don't you, about decisions? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we were talking about that when we did our videos about the master game, is making those decisions. Are you going to send the runner, or are you going to send the trail runner, and all
mhm,
that? So, yeah, when you're doing a replay, you kind of have your certain play results you kind of memorize. Like at first and second, you get an 8, which is like a 56 hit value to right field. So right away, I'm looking at that right fielder's arm, and what's my adding the speed, if you remember, and saying,
mhm,
okay, I'm just gonna send the guy from second. I'm not gonna mess around with the guy going from first to third. You might just say, I'm just gonna make that play at the plate, see how that works out.
mhm,
And then when you're doing a replay, you kind of ebb and flow with your interest in that. Like sometimes you might just want that simple, is he out or safe? And I'm not gonna mess around with the extra stuff. But then sometimes you're like, I really want to get granular with it. And okay, let me send the trail runner. Okay, then what's gonna happen if this? And you kind of look at the rules and you kind of like the master game lets you do that. You can
mhm,
kind of ebb and flow. A couple things I do too, like if it's a blowout, I'll shut off all like those extra calculations. Like
mhm.
I'll just go one base advances, shut all that other stuff off. Just get this game over with.
Right.
We've all been there. Those
That's
games.
again the one thing Appa again does that no other game I have
Yeah.
does is that again it and there's enough weirdness in there that keeps it interesting,
Yeah. There are
and so
some
I
things in there.
basically, at least like my 69 I'm working on, I'm watching it.
Mhm.
I don't have a lot of decisions. I got the starting lineups and and it's really fun. Like I had Tim McCarver tried to steal third,
Mhm.
and he was average speed, so
Right.
it wasn't out of the realm. I think he had like maybe 2 steals and 3 caught, something like that in
Right.
real life, but it was just if I was making the decisions, there's no way I would ever have him do that, you
Right.
know.
Right.
I also had one where it was like, the ninth inning, they were behind, I don't remember the teams, but they were behind by 1, 1st and 3rd, and they tried to double steal,
Mm.
and, they got it was a throw it to second, they threw it back home and nailed the
Uh-huh.
guy,
Oh, wow.
and so you talk about remembering things, see
Yeah.
that sticks out in my brain.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
never ever would have tried to double steal, and
Yeah.
and there's some people, well, that would never happen. Well, watch baseball, you
That's
know.
that's amazing. That base, you're right, RG. I never think of the basic game like that, how those little nuggets are built into that thing. But there
Mhm,
are some. I was playing in that tournament. It was basic game tournament a couple
mhm.
years ago, and some guy was playing a Yankee. I think it was like 62 Yankees or something, and the guy got thrown out. It was a runner on third, and there was a pop out to the shortstop, and the guy on third was trying to
Oh, yeah,
tag up.
yeah.
and the guy got thrown out at the plate for trying to tag up on and it was amazing. I'm like, how that's so, and that's in the basic game,
right?
So,
Well, I know yesterday I was playing the Cardinals at the Expos 69,
hmm
and there was Lou Brock was on first. There was a ground ball hit to third or
hmm
to first, I mean, 3-1, and he made it to third,
it's
because he was fast,
right.
and again, so I mean
Little nuggets, like
it
yeah,
is. I mean, and that
yeah,
I'm finding that for me, making this 69 replay interesting is things like that,
hmm
and Strat, their rare plays are really not that great.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we talked about when you're playing the PC game, you just kind of push button.
hmm
When you get into when I'm getting into a long replay with Strat, I'm finding that it feels a little bit the same way.
hmm
Even little things like, for example, bases loaded, there's a ground ball hit to third, the third baseman takes it to third base.
hmm hmm
It gets the final out. Again, those kind of even something simple as that doesn't happen in Strat. It's
right.
always going to either be if it's hit to third, bases loaded, either he's going to go home with it, or he's going to
hmm
go to second, or he's going to go to first.
Yeah, he never
There
goes
is
to
no
third.
never gonna go to third, and so again, that makes it feel more like baseball, and
Yeah.
again, I had the same thing where it was a foul ball down the first base line, the
hmm
second baseman caught it, and the guy tried to tag and got thrown out,
Yeah, yeah.
and
It's
so
amazing that
it
stuff's in
is,
there.
and
So,
and it and what's even more amazing is that you don't have there's no rare play chart,
right.
and so it's baked in, and I've probably played 200 games now, overall of
Mhm.
ATBA, and it's sometimes you play enough, it's like, okay, I'm seeing a pattern
Right,
here,
right.
or they're overdoing it,
Yeah.
or this is happening too much, this weird thing. And so
Mhm,
far, I've never. It seems to be. It surprises me. It's balanced enough that it feels like real baseball, and
mhm.
so again, at least early on in this, that to me, that's going a long way, because when you go to a game and you don't know what's going to happen, and
Right.
the I don't know what's going to happen is broader,
You're right.
that keeps you like interested in coming back, and oddly enough, I've had two no hitters. Uh,
Wow, yeah.
the Padres or the Houston Astros have both of them. The
Yeah.
first four games they had two no hitters. And
I like
so
to see how many were there in '69? I forget. Did you
they
ever look
were a
that up?
few. They wasn't
Yeah,
as bad as 68, but it was definitely still the offense. I think the league average was like 242 or something
yeah.
like that, which is kind of low. Generally, you're up around 250, mid 50s. But at
Yeah,
any rate,
are you doing the grade advancement too on your replay? Like if a pitcher, like a D pitcher goes 5, are you doing the upgrades?
I'm not at
You're
this
not doing it?
point.
Okay.
What I'm doing is just managing them like I think the real life, you know.
Right.
And again, that's for me. I have to make sure I keep my head in the game and
Mhm.
not the ATBA game. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like, for example, you got a let's say I got a B pitcher and he's getting beat up.
Mhm.
You bring in a D pitcher, and if you're thinking ATBA, well, that's dumb. you know
Right, right, right.
but I can't do that. Again, this is fantasy, and so
Right,
it's like, he's getting beat up, he don't have it today. You're gonna go with this guy, he might have it today, and quite often
right.
it works out that way. I got one D pitcher. He's 2-0 with, I can't
Mhm.
remember who he is, but he's like 2-0 with like a 150 ERA
That's
and
so
two
much
and two
fun, isn't
starts.
it? Yeah, yeah, that's
It
fun.
is.
That's a blast.
Yeah.
That reminds me, Appa does that, and doing all these replays, there's always, like, a couple of those D pitchers like that where
Mhm.
it's like magic where, like, it's almost like the dice know that guy's pitching,
It
and then
is.
it automatically it goes cold, and, like, time after time after time, like, this is, like, some kind of magic involved
It
here,
is. But I mean,
but
isn't that real baseball? I mean,
yeah,
the best players will get streaky, or have slumps. The worst players will get hot,
yep,
and
and
so
teams.
yeah, teams will
Yeah,
get hot.
teams itself, so yeah. The Rangers, I was thinking '06, and that very first replay was so much fun. They were like a 4th place team, and they won the division. And it was like a couple deep pitchers that just every time out, it was like the other team just went cold.
Yeah,
And it was so much fun seeing that team win that replay, that division in that replay.
You probably start rooting for them, don't you? When
Yeah,
you're getting close to September, and it's like, man, these guys are playing and you start rooting for them to win.
yeah, yeah. It was a blast. I want to touch on a couple on that finishing replays. Just going back to what we were talking about finishing replays and a couple things I wanted to mention. Because with the topic, I know you mentioned a couple of yesterday's. This was a topic. So I thought of a couple things I wanted to mention about completing them.
Okay.
This is kind of like I mean, it's a point of contention or like setting goals for yourself. That's a big part I think in that helped me complete replays is some folks will say, well, this is a board game, like goals are for work,
Right.
this is you're gonna make it sound like work. Um, so when I went about finishing my first replay, what I found, you actually have to know your limitations too. So, like, what that means is like jumping in. Let's say you've never played these games before, then you're jumping. I'm going to complete a whole 1975 replay, and you're going to get overwhelmed right away, like with all this. Like, how much time's involved with this? What's involved? If you set goals, when I first started, another thing is with this community, we're like in this golden era we were talking about of sports
Hmm.
gaming with all these different games and card sets available. When I started 2006, I maybe only had like about 4 or 5 card sets. Now I have like hundreds of card sets. So you don't have a lot of sets to jump around on.
Hmm.
And so I was playing about 20 games a week with that. And it was like week after week after week. And I would set like a goal, okay, well, I want to get like 80, 90 games done this month or 100 games done this month. And then I say, okay, well, if the replay is 1,100 games, I could be done in like 10 months, 11 months, 12 months. And now, if I could see the finish line, that was big for me. Is I had to be able to see the finish line, and not have some like abstract, like 30, 40 year project. Like I had to be able to look at the thing and say, I can get this done in like 15, 18 months, however long it was taking me to do it. And if I could see that finish line, that helped power me through to keep going with it. Um,
So didn't find that doing goals or putting yourself on a schedule that didn't ruin the fun for you?
no, because I had my eyes on the prize.
Gotcha.
I want to because when you're doing that goal setting, you really accumulate a lot of games. And I'm a stat, of course, like a lot of us. I love statistics. I
Oh yeah.
love baseball. I'm an econ major. At college. I was studying statistics in college, and I love it. Can't get enough of it.
Hmm.
So, and just seeing like the statistics add up was part of the enjoyment. So the more I played, the more fun I got adding more
Hmm.
stats in. Where just keep going and going with the stats. And another big thing along with the goals is getting distracted from other games and seasons. Is you kind of really have to kind of block that off as best you can. Like for example, with what I do right now with this steroid era, that's my number one project. Like I want to get this 93 National League done by like early next year sometime. I could see the finish line. I'm like almost to August. It's only about 400 more games to play. I could see the finish line, but the biggest thing was not letting like weeks go by where you don't put it aside for a real long time. Try to like at least get every 3 days at the most have at least a game you're playing in it.
Hmm.
So like don't if you keep that pressure and that constant like you're on that project nonstop, that's gonna help you complete. So like if you do that 69, let's say you don't let more than 3 days go by or you're not playing some 1969, you're gonna finish that. You're gonna finish it and it's gonna happen. So
So would you say it's important to have some other things going on?
yeah, I have to right now because and actually my gaming volume has really dipped since this golden era,
Hmm.
last 5 years. Because
Hmm.
I was playing about 20. Right now I'm only playing about 10 to 13 games of this steroid era a week.
Hmm.
Because like every after I finish about 25 games of this steroid era, I'm jumping over. I'm playing other sports and I have way too many other things that I wanna try out and
Hmm.
play, and I'll dabble in that for like 3, 4 days, and then I'll jump back to the steroid era.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll play like a 4-game series. Like right now I'm in 93 and there's a lot of 4-game series. They wear on you. Like that's a long 4-game
Hmm.
series. I'll jump and I'll play one thing of something else, or maybe I'll open a card set, or maybe I'll look through a set. But like so it slows me down. But I try to keep that 3, 4 days, a constant pressure on the replay, and it gets there. And you mentioned earlier too about the stack keeping, about like you couldn't do it if it was all like just like manuals. You said about the helpers. Let's talk
Hmm.
about helpers.
Hmm.
That's big. This 93 National League is the first one I've been doing with a helper. I'm using Ballstat.
Okay.
And all the other ones before that were all paper and pencil. And it's a big trade-off. That's something I'm constantly battling on these replays is I love that hand writing the lineups like you do.
Hmm.
And I love the adding the stats into the Excel, but it's tedious. Now you
Hmm.
got Ballstat, it does it all for you. But I lose that connection of the hand scoring. That's a big connection you have to your project is that hand scoring part.
Oh, now I,
Eh,
I I do I do that.
yeah,
You know,
I know you do. Yeah,
so I guess for me that's kind of keeping it, you know, that connection because
yeah,
I mean I keep score. I write the
yeah.
lineups out for every game. It slows me down,
Right, right,
but I'm of the opinion that I wouldn't enjoy it because that again, uh, there's a balance. You want to remember this.
right,
You
right.
want it to, and if you're just flying through games
Yeah,
and you don't remember anything, for me, I'm not going to enjoy that.
yeah,
And obviously you can't remember everything, but again, I
right.
mean, if you talk to Pete Rose, he's played what, thousands and thousands of games. He's not going to
Hmm.
remember every game,
Right,
but
right.
there's things going to stick out. And like we've been talking about, we remember certain things. And so for
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
keeping score, writing out the lineups, that to me, that's a nice balance of trying to get some of it ingrained in my brain
yeah,
without bogging it down too much. So
yeah.
having the helper keeping the stats for me,
Hmm.
that if I had to do that myself, that would be too much.
Yeah, it is. I tell you what I had to do because Ballstat, I struggled with. Well, there's a learning curve to Ballstat, but once you get past it, it's a really amazing tool and goes really quickly. And you know all the commands. But the problem I was having with Ballstat was I was losing touch with the replay because if I was just typing it in, like it's like talking about writing things down.
Hmm.
It seemed like after like 4 or 5 games, like, I don't even remember those games. Like, it was almost like they just happened and, like,
Right.
I don't even know what happened there.
And
Like, when
that bugs me.
yeah, it did, and, what I end up and I was struggling with it, so I got one of these things you get at Target, those little,
Yeah.
this books, and what I kind of forced myself to do, even though obviously Ballstat has everything right there, you could just point and click, see your standings. I just decided to, all right, I'm just going to do my keep on my paper standings,
Okay.
and for every game, I'll write down like just a little highlight of the game, like whether it's Harold Reynolds went 2 for 6,
Hmm.
and Orioles beat the Twins 11-7. I wrote something down,
Right.
and I found this was helping me. We use Ballstat, like those helpers, because I
Hmm.
I was losing track. It didn't seem. It almost felt like cold or like it was just there's
Like it,
something that wasn't right about it.
like it didn't happen
Like
almost.
it didn't happen. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Like so I played 3 games. I don't even remember that first game. Like I don't even know what the score was. I don't even know who won the game. So
I know what I'll do is because I'm keeping it. I use the John Carpenter, or not John Carpenter. What's it? Bob Carpenter. I forget his name, but anyway, I use his scorebook, so they're all in one book. So,
yeah.
like, like when I'm sitting with my wife watching TV at night or whatever, I'll bring my scorebook over,
Uh
and
huh.
then like if I played 3 games that day, I'll kind
Yeah.
of just go through the scores, just to remind oh yeah, Carlos
Right. Right.
Yastrzemski went 2 for 4 today with
Oh
a
yeah.
grand slam, and it's amazing how that kind of keeps
Yeah.
me. And again, it's not very time consuming. It's just while
Right.
I'm got some spare time, and we're sitting around and not really talking, just being together.
Right.
So that's another advantage to keeping the score is that I can
Yeah.
kind of, when I have some time, just go back and kind of remember, okay, oh, the Padres took 2 or 3 of this series, just
Mhm.
things like
Mhm.
that. And then you talk about the stats. Again, I use Stratomatic just because
Mhm. Mhm.
that's what I'm used to, and I have all these seasons. Um, I got through my first week of the 69 season, which was like 86 games.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so, but pouring over those stats, you know about the payoff,
Right.
just even getting a weekend, just
Yeah.
like Willie McCovey is killing it,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, see, that's awesome. That's so
and
much
so just
fun.
it is, and just
Yeah.
looking at the team, the league leaders, who's got the Maury or Wills, the
Maury
Expos
Wills, yeah.
is leading the league in stolen bases. He's got 4
Mhm.
already, and so just things like that, So I can imagine if the payoff of a week,
Mhm.
if I can get to the end of a season, I
Yeah.
can really see what you're saying, how that payoff
Yeah.
would be huge.
Yeah, I'm seeing it right now in this 93 nationally. Like I said, this is the first time I've used a helper, to do my stats for me, and like Frank Thomas, for example, he did 100 RBIs recently. It's the first time I saw like 3 figures on the stats at the top of the screen. I'm like, wow, I did all the 3 figure 100 plus
Yeah.
RBIs. So they're starting to hit 400 at bats. Like the teams, you could see everybody's like stats by the second.
Mhm.
These guys are hitting 400 at bat. Like you could see that. It's really the payoff is amazing. It just that's why I do it. It's almost like a junkie, I
Yeah,
know that prize, and it feels so good to hit the end of those things, and I enjoy it. And like I said, it's not for everybody because you are spending a lot of time with teams you have no interest in playing, and I think you got to find two efficiencies in your time because, like I mentioned earlier, we only have so many time on this earth and so much time in a day to do this
sure.
stuff. So when guys say like, I don't have time for a full season replay, it's like anytime someone says they don't have time for something, what they really means, it's not really a priority for me.
Right. Yeah.
That's all it really means.
And
And
so this is my only hobby. So,
yeah, yeah,
I don't play golf. I don't go to
hey,
concerts. I don't go to sporting events,
right,
so, I got my family, my job,
yep,
and then this is, I don't this is all I have, and so
yeah,
again, and like you said, then that's perfectly fine.
yeah,
If you enjoy pulling out 2 teams and playing a random game and you get joy out of that, that's obviously perfectly fine. So what this is kind of geared toward is, people like me and you
yeah,
who are a little bit deeper into it
hmm,
and, see the value,
right,
of full season replays or even team replays.
hmm,
I know it's on Facebook, they talk about whether you do series or day by day.
right, right,
For me, I do day by day because
hmm,
I get tired of a series pretty quick.
right, with the same teams. Yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
like to do day by day. So to
hmm,
me, that's keeping it random enough that, it does wear out your envelopes quicker, but
yeah. That gets back to the efficiencies because that was a big factor in how I was able to complete them originally. Is the creating efficiencies in what you're doing. One big thing with doing I think I have my old score sheets here. I was going to show them, but like when you're keeping score, it's almost like you don't want to you don't want you kind of got to watch how much time you're spending on it. Like if it's a ground at the third, it's just the last out of the inning. Like, do I really have to? And I'm not really sure if it's a ground or the third, but I know it's an out. Do I have to look it up, or can I just write O, like, or just ground out?
Mhm.
And just little things like that. And it's you're almost getting into less more of like I'm like playing this just for stats at that point, but it's efficiencies. Like it's almost like you're trying to get to a point where you can play a game in like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, just to move things along to get it going. Because like I say, I had this goal in my mind of like I want to get 20 games in this week, or I want to get this replay done in like 2 years. So you get like the efficiencies there. Another efficiency with the game is, handling the cards. Like, I put them in, like, sheets,
Mhm.
like we were doing, like, on
Right.
our video we did, just so I'm not, like, handling, like, I'm not, like, flipping through cards, so every little thing like that. So, it's like I say, everybody has their own way of doing things, but I was trying to find efficiency because I only had so much amount of time to do it, but I wanted to get a lot of games in the little bit of time I did. So That's what I've found. It
Yeah, I'm
works
still
pretty
working
good.
through that balance myself,
It's
trying to
efficiencies, yeah.
right now I'm probably erring a little bit on the side of going too long.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I'm really bad. I mean, I know like the games I've been putting on my YouTube channel, I kind of apologize because I meander,
Yeah.
and I know there's some people who, they prefer you to get through it, and it's just like I wouldn't enjoy it, so but
Yeah.
when I'm playing by myself, it's even worse. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
again, I keep score and I keep very detailed score.
Yeah.
If it's to me, it makes a difference if it's a three
Mhm.
unassisted or a 3-1, because that's to me, that's I'm watching the game. And so I
Yeah.
want to know whether he went to first by himself or whether he, and then, a player will come up and, oh, that's interesting. So I always
Mhm.
have baseball reference up, which is, a huge tool. I mean,
Mhm, mhm.
absolutely huge. If we'd have had that when we were kids, man, we would have geeked out.
Oh, yeah, no doubt
I
about it,
think we
yeah.
take it for granted now, but that
Oh,
is just
yeah.
so huge.
Well, you probably remember these NRG. Remember you probably have some of these, those old, books. That's what
Oh,
we
yeah.
had.
Yep.
This is like the 1979 Complete Handbook of Base this was like our baseball reference, if you
It
remember back
was,
then.
or the old baseball encyclopedia.
Yep,
I
yep,
had one of
got that.
those, but at any rate, so so sometimes it's taking me an hour and a half or longer to play a game. Right
Yeah, I
now right now I have some extra time, which I won't have, you know, probably in a month or so.
mhm,
But I'm meandering a bit. I need to try to get a little bit more focused because again, I
mhm,
think if that, like you said, if you don't keep some semblance of progress,
mhm.
that can,
Right.
it's like, that can depress you to the point where, well, well, I'm not going to finish this.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta be it's almost like anything. It's like whether you wanna lose weight or if you wanna accomplish something, you gotta have some kind of, like, goals and deadlines and
Hmm.
something if you wanna do anything worthwhile. Anything wor that saying is like, "Anything worthwhile is hard," it's something there's a saying or something like that,
Yeah,
but
no, I know what you're saying.
anything worth doing was, it wasn't easy. But it's a payoff's amazing. Like I said, I still do one-offs, when I go to the other games, like, I'll still have little one-off games, I'll try little other games, and that's for fun, just to kinda keep it fresh. Because then you come back to it, and you're like, "Okay, I could" it's like a fresh start
Yeah,
back on the
I've
replay.
actually tried that where it's like, okay, all I'm going to do is this.
Yep.
I'm really going to focus on this, and again, for me personally, I'm finding that it's better to go do something else.
Mhm, mhm.
So like I've got like a 72 Nolan Ryan replay.
Right.
So that's a pitcher replay is low fruit. It's what,
Yeah.
40 games,
Yeah.
Nolan Ryan, and it gives you something to do to kind of distract you. But again, I
Yeah.
don't want to get too distracted because if I'm away from it too long, I lose my place. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like when you're replaying it, you're kind of in this little universe,
Mhm.
and you're remembering who's doing what and what's going on in your little universe. If I get away from that too much and start getting more too much other information,
Mhm.
then when I get back to the universe, it feels like I don't remember where I'm at. You know,
Right.
and so again, that balance, for me, so it's good to play a game every once in a while.
Yep.
But if I get too into something else, I lose my place. And for me, I like keeping my place. I like
Mhm.
remembering who's hot, who's not. And so
And that happened. That's the one of the other fun things of these replays. You could see those guys getting hot and who's
yeah,
cold, and it's so much fun seeing like this guy will not stop hitting. He just keeps hitting and hitting. It's just like real life, watching like
it
a
is,
season unfold, and that's
and that's
that's why we do it. That's why we do it to get that enjoyment. So,
and that's exactly, again, I don't like modern baseball, and that grieves me. I've really tried. I've
mhm,
tried to watch it, and I just don't care.
mhm. Yeah, it's
And
tough.
so for me, this is my baseball season.
Mhm,
And so I want to watch the games. I want to
mhm.
follow the players. I want to see who's hot, who's not. And so by replaying, I'm getting to live that. And so
Yep.
again, finding that balance to where you are enjoying it. I guess for me, one big thing I'm getting from you is that it's okay to. I've been real hesitant to put goals on myself. So
Mhm.
it's like, well, like you said, well, this isn't work. I'm not going to
Yeah.
enjoy this. But you're right. Anything in life that we do or trying to accomplish, there is that aspect of, or trying to get a new habit, that
Yeah.
aspect
Yeah.
of working through the wall,
Yeah.
and so if you keep, like you said, the goal in mind, the finish line, then pushing yourself a little bit
Yeah.
to continue will be
Mhm.
worth it.
Yeah, it's that what you just said there can fall on people way different ways. Some people can hear what you said, like, there's no way I would think of a game like that. Other people who really want to complete a replay might say, yeah, I might do that, and it might work for me, and it does. The other thing with the replays I've done is I break it up into digestible chunks. Like that saying, like, how do you eat an elephant? And it's like
Right.
one bite at a time. It's
Yep.
that's that's what you do with these replays is I break it up and I figured out like I play it in series blocks. So like there's a weekend series typically every week and there's a
Mhm.
weekday series. That's if
Right.
if you've done
Sure.
replays, that's what happens. And those replay blocks are about 25 games or so, 25 to 28 games. Like right now I'm in a really long block. There's 7 series in a block and there was every single series is a 4-game series, which is tough. It's hard to
Mhm.
get through because you're playing the same teams a lot.
Right.
And but it comes out to every season is about 54 blocks. So like you count down the blocks. So like okay, I'm up to block 34 right now. And there's 54 blocks in the season. So next block will be 35. It helps you keep hope alive. You're going to finish
Mhm.
this thing. That's what it basically does. And you're making progress. And that was I tried actually like what you're doing where you playing both leagues at the same time and I couldn't do it.
Mhm.
It was like too much of a elephant to bite off
Mhm.
because what had to motivate me was I had to see progression in the calendar, in
Right.
the replay to stay motivated with it. And I was trying to do I started this 93 originally one time with every National League and American League before I went to just broke it up.
Mhm.
I couldn't do it. I got their weekend. It took me like 3-4 months to play like a week.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I can't like this. I'm not seeing it move fast enough for me. And it was like it was too much for me to bite off.
Yeah.
So that's why I can only do like one league at a time just to keep my interest.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know it again, I've had a lot of time lately, and
Yeah.
I just finished week 1, and it's been a month and 8 days,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It
so
could take
that's
a
just for
while.
the, but I mean, that's for the, but you talk about making progress.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking at it as I finished a week. What I'm looking at is that I finished 89 games.
Hmm.
So for me, that's my progress marker.
Right.
It's
Right.
like,
Right.
'cause if I look at it at a week, it's like, wow, that's depressing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All that time and I only got a month. But
Yeah.
how I'm looking at it is I got 89 games in,
Yep.
and that's a
Yep.
lot, you
Yeah.
know. So again, that it's important that we remember to have these gauges, these progress, and just try to
Hmm.
make, again, if you are doing both leagues, don't make it weeks,
Yeah.
make it the total games you're playing. So that's,
Yeah.
for me, that's working. It's at least so far. But it's really, the advantage to doing both is again, for me, I'm seeing this as kind of reliving the season, and so
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm seeing all the, exactly how it transpired. It's like, all the players, when they trade back and forth between leagues, I'll see those guys move, and
Hmm.
so, but again, I see what you're saying. If you don't feel like you're making progress, it gets discouraging.
Yeah.
And when you're
Yep.
doing every team in the whole league, again, it's slow.
That's like my back to my friend who started that 2001 replay. Whenever he was playing one game a week, and he's seeing like 2,400 games. He's adding it up. Like I'm gonna be. That just overwhelms you. It's just like first couple games, you're gonna get overwhelmed. And it's like I'm not. I can't do this, but you
Now you
can do it. Um,
you said, um, oh, shoot, I forgot my line of thought. Oh well, it'll come back. So let's see. I got some other notes here. Uh, yeah, you said something that was very interesting about how that staying focused in all the options that we have right now.
oh yeah, that's hard.
That I find that when I buy another season, waiting for it to come,
Mhm.
it really, if I'm, it derails me pretty easily, because you lose
Yes.
interest because you start thinking about all the
Mhm.
things you can do with this new season that's coming or this new game that's coming.
Right.
And it really, so I'm about to the point where I'm maybe going to try to curb my spending and
Yeah.
stop getting something new so it'll help me focus
That's hard to
on
do. Yep.
it is,
Yeah.
because I mean, it amazes me how it, derails my interest
Yeah.
when I buy something else.
Yeah, you're right. I'm in the same boat you're in, RG. Like it's that's part of the fun of the hobby. Like I think you
It
mentioned in
is.
your videos before. That's part of the fun of the whole thing. Is this I'm guilty of. I watch other guys play games in on these all these great channels, and I want to buy them.
Yep.
Even I have that season on like two other games, but I want to get,
Yep.
well, this guy just did an unboxing and he's doing a replay. I want to play that season too.
Yep. I mean,
Like this,
you think of
just
all the things that you can do,
yeah,
and but it's surprising me how again that just takes the wind out of my sails for
yeah,
whatever I'm doing at the time.
yes, it does. And just like last week, Art ID Jester, he's the biggest culprit. I see him open some box stuff, and I want that season. Oh, I want to do that. I didn't know Triple Play Baseball sold those postseason sets, or you could just buy like the postseason. And I had a season of Triple Play, and I liked it. It's kind of like Dynasty League,
Mhm.
and it replay ID Jester did an unboxing. I was like, oh, I got like 4 or 5 postseasons. Like, oh, I didn't know they sold that. What do I do next? Right to the website. Oh, I
Yep.
can get this season. I bought like 4 postseasons. That's myself.
Yep.
And you wait for it. You get the tracking number. Is it
Mhm.
coming Tuesday?
And
You
that is a lot of fun. I mean,
it
there's
is.
nothing wrong with that. But again, I mean, I guess my last couple years have been experimenting. Different
Mhm.
games, different seasons. Different all kinds of stuff. I think to me personally, I'm to the point now where I want to finish something.
Yeah,
And so maybe for me personally, curbing that would help
yeah,
me say, okay, I got this, and I'm going to play it and make some hay with it,
yeah.
and finish it.
Yeah, I think for you in the 69, I think if you just stay with it, like, and don't, like I mentioned, that the biggest tip I can give you is like, don't let more than like 3 or 4 days go by where you're not hitting on that replay.
Right.
Because if you play one game, you're going to want to play a couple more games on that.
Right.
So it's going to give you some spurts. And if you just keep that, like, don't let it get a wayside. Keep it like front and center. Like if 69 is your thing that you want to finish, then I would say if you just stay focused like what you're doing, you'll get there. It'll eventually come because it's like momentum. It's just you're just going to build this momentum up. Momentum is then, and once you get the nice thing about these replays, you're going to get a once you get to August, September, you almost like the marathoners get their
Yep.
final push to the thing. You get really excited because you see the finish line,
Right.
and you'll really start cranking them out, and then
Yeah.
you're there. So
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. I really would like to finish that, and so
yeah.
I think that I've the using the Strat,
Hmm.
ATBA, again, and again I'm doing with the basic. I'm doing the hybrid where I'm
Hmm.
using the master to
Yeah, I
adjust
like
the
that. Yeah,
grades.
I liked how you're doing it.
It's working out great for me. I mean,
Mhm,
it's again I need the left right splits to some
mhm.
degree, and to me that's working great. But I remember what I was going to say earlier. Um, it's huge fun starting a project,
Oh, yeah, it's
and,
unbelievable.
for some people that's probably enough fun. Whether they finish or not
Yeah,
is
yeah.
irrelevant. They just enjoy starting them, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know,
The prep work that goes into it is
exactly.
amazing,
Thinking
yeah.
about it, getting the cards
Mhm,
ready. It's just
mhm.
even going back to buying the season.
Right, right.
Waiting for it to come. All that's part of that. That's okay. I'm
Mhm.
going to do this project, and that's a lot of fun. My question is how important do you think it is to do some serious think if you really want to finish one, uh, to do some really serious thinking about what you're going to do and how that would make it successful that you finish. Like
That's a
for
big, yeah.
69, I was born in 69.
Mhm.
69, you got 4 expansion teams.
Mhm.
69, you got the first year that they divvied up into the divisions that I knew growing up.
Mhm.
Um, so there, you got lots of players that I know.
Mhm.
Even though I was born in '69, again, a lot of those players were still playing when I started following baseball 10 years later.
Mhm.
And so, um, again, a lot going on there. So,
Yeah.
when you're planning, um, how much valuable do you think there is in really doing some thought to see, is this something that's going to keep me interested and finish?
Yeah, it's definitely comes like what you said, knowing the players. Now there's something you said about that because you got these guys doing dead ball seasons. There's almost like fictitious. I'll pull out a dead ball season. It's almost like a fictitious game I'm playing.
Right. Yeah.
It's like um, that's a big thing. It just comes like what you liked about baseball. Like what era of baseball did you enjoy the most? Like what
Hmm.
maybe for me it was when I was playing Little League, and that was like maybe 81 I was mentioning earlier, like 81 American League. And then I think I enjoyed baseball the most when I was like a late teen, early 20s, with the Pirates, the 88 to 92 Pirates, because I'm here in Pittsburgh, and they were just doing awesome. That whole era of that 88 to like 97 was like, I loved it. I think that's what I think about. And that's why it came about in the Steroid Era project is like, I'm trying to replay every single game from 1987 to 2003. Now
Hmm.
it's a 36,000 game project, but I'm almost 7,000 games into it.
Yeah, no,
Which is
you're
crazy.
making some hay. Yeah.
It's like I'm just plowing away at this thing, and I may never finish it, but it's the era I like, and I
Mhm.
think it is like you said, if you know the players, if that's something that interests you, I'm thinking something that wouldn't interest me too much would be like I don't really think of like before 1950, like those seasons before 50. I know you play some 40s and things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, but that would be a real challenge for me to try to jump into a replay doing that. Not to say I won't do it at some point, but that would be one thing I like about those replays. And I have a friend who, Greg Wells, he's an Apple Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Yeah.
He uh him and I would talk a lot at these conventions. I've known him for a decade plus, and he finally wanted to start. He never did a replay. He's in the Hall of Fame. He never finished a full season replay, and he committed to doing 1975.
Mhm.
And we talked about goals and getting like certain deadline and getting things done. And he finished it, and he sent me a text when Cecil Cooper had a walk off home run to win his replay, and he's a Red Sox fan.
Oh,
So imagine how awesome a feeling that would be for a
yeah.
Red Sox fan to win they won your 75 replay on a walk off home run. And he's like, I just wanted to get a replay under my belt. I'm never doing it again. But recently, he went back. He started 1959 National League again, and just
Mhm.
because it's a smaller amount of games, it's maybe how many 50s or what are they, 700 games or so.
Well, you only got 16 teams.
Yeah,
So obviously,
he,
like in '69, there's 24. So that's
yeah,
a lot more games.
yeah. So you could do a replay once you've done a whole 75. You can go back and do like a 50s replay. It's almost like pretty easy. You're
Mhm.
thinking. And he did 1959 because he said there's a Hall of Famer on every National League team, which was kind of neat, I thought. So,
And that's a big deal. I know, like in '69,
mhm,
I pull out the Giants, and you got Willie McCovey, and you got Mays, you got Marichal,
mhm,
you go to the Cardinals, they got Bob Gibson,
mhm,
the Mets got Tom Seaver, the Reds got, or the Orioles got Frank Robinson, Boog Powell,
mhm.
Brooks Robinson. And then the expansion teams are interesting. You got the Pilots. The
Yeah,
Pilots have
yeah,
always interested me.
right.
They stink, but and then you got the Royals, their first year, the Padres, their first year. So you
Yep,
got, the expansion teams are always interesting. It's kind of fun to see how they're progressing.
yep.
So for me, '69, that was the beginning of the Big Red Machine.
Mhm, mhm.
70, they go to the World Series, and so, Pete Rose, Tony Perez,
Yep,
I mean, even Joe Morgan on the Astros,
yep.
so again, I'm finding that it doesn't matter who I'm pulling out, that there's either the team or there's players, Jim Booten, or
Mhm.
how you pronounce his name,
Right.
uh, on the pilots,
Yeah,
and so, you know, again, there's something to be said about knowing the players,
most definitely.
and
Yeah,
so connecting with them, and um, so again, I'm finding that's helping me keep me interested.
yeah, yeah, it's fun. You get to learn players too, new players along these replays. You get to
Hmm.
learn about guys, and like you mentioned earlier about the going to Baseball Reference while you're playing the game, which I
Hmm.
do that. I'll do that like we were talking about the grind, like getting through. You're almost like you're losing track of the replay and you're playing games too fast. I'll stop. I'll actually intentionally play a game super slow, kind of like how I'll write the lineup out. I'll do the ball stat. I'll look at research.
Yeah.
I'll look at how that guy did in that season. Like
Hmm.
what I want to see, like why did this guy get traded? Who he got traded
Yeah.
for? What was the team thinking when they traded him? So that's a
Yeah.
you run into a couple things on those replays, which I thought was neat. Because sometimes these replays don't mimic real life, which you run into
Oh
issues with
yeah.
that.
Which
Like
is
I had,
good.
like when I did 95 American League recently, David Cohn was on the Blue Jays.
Mhm.
And the Blue Jays in real life were going nowhere. They were just there. It was the end of their run. They were going. They traded Cohn to the Yankees like, towards the end of that season. But in my replay, the Blue Jays were, they were leading the wild card. They were like they were right up until July.
Wow.
Like no, but I'm playing has played pitchers. I use my own lineups. But I go by the actual starters.
Okay.
Like, what would they actually trade him? And like, so you have to make a decision as a replayer. You're like, am I going to go by what happened or keep him on the Blue Jays? And I made it a rule I have to go by the trades that actually happened.
Mhm.
So they lost David Cohn and they didn't win the wild card.
Yeah, no, that's a big, I do as played,
Yeah.
Now I don't do, like, relief pitchers,
Mhm.
now I always have the box score up.
Yeah.
And so if the situation is similar, let's say
Yeah.
that the game is just, let's say they're ahead by 2 and they bring in their closer, in
Mhm.
the real game, I'll do the same thing,
Yeah.
again, if it makes sense, you
Yeah.
know. And again, I'm doing that just to try to distribute the playing time. But obviously, if they're losing by 8, I'm not going to bring in the closer, and
Right.
so. But
Yeah.
I when you get to the end of the season, and like perfect example with what you mentioned with the Blue Jays, that I think I've decided that I'm going to just go with what happens, and
Mhm.
you know
Just go with
try
it.
to it's a little bit like playing at the basic, that
Yeah.
would McCarver try to steal third?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not. But again, I can justify it in my mind. It's just
Yeah.
like he really thought, he thought the pitcher wasn't paying attention, and he really thought, again, like I've said before, Babe Ruth ended the 1926 World Series trying to steal
Yeah.
second base, you know, and so people do dumb things all the time,
Yep.
and so again, you can, like, Cone,
Mhm.
maybe he really pissed off the Blue Jays,
Yeah.
and
Or said something to a manager.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so, again, baseball, I've heard people say, I'm watching this real life game,
Mhm.
and there's no way this would happen in a replay, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
that's the way the game is. They just do dumb things, and weird things happen, and people do things that you scratch your head and think, man, that don't make any sense at all,
Yeah.
And so,
And that's one
I,
of the fun things of these replays, like just like we were talking about. Like you have to make those calls, and you're deciding you're basically you're the player, you're the coach, you're the general manager, you're the owner of the teams, and you're
mhm,
running the whole show. And like you got to make those decisions before you start your replay. Like, what am I going to do this? Couple issues I've run into at replays is, and it's when you get to the playoffs, is a reliever usage. Because I ran into an issue where I was putting this was in that 1980 National League replay. Like Dave Smith and Woody Fryman were like the ace relievers of those teams. It was the 80 Astros, 80
mhm,
Expos. And I was thinking to myself, there's nothing really stopping me right now from like putting these guys, like putting a starter in for 5 innings and putting these guys in for like 4 innings.
mhm.
Like you have to kind of control yourself and like your reliever usage. That's a big thing I think with these replays
Yeah,
is
that's why I always try to do what I think the manager would do,
yeah, yeah,
and so and uh, I try to remember, like, I'm using Strat, and so
mhm,
Strat will tell me if the reliever's tired,
Mhm.
based on their, and so I kind of go with that.
Oh, that's a good, yeah, that's a good way to
Because
do it.
if you use him too much, they'll have a T by his
Yeah.
name, and so I was like, okay, he's tired, and I'll go with that.
See, Napa
Um,
doesn't have that for relievers. That's the one of the things. They have it with starters, but
mm,
even the starter fatigue isn't that great on the master game, but
well, I know like Strat, even during the game, the pitchers will get
yeah.
tired. Now that to me, that's not. I don't use that as a definite,
Mhm.
but I take that into consideration. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, Strat, the way they do it is the pitcher could be pitching great, and then he'll give up a run, and then the eighth inning, I think it's like three runners, and he's tired.
Mhm.
But if
Mhm.
if it's the eighth inning and they're still ahead 3-1, in 1969, they're probably going to let this guy keep
You have to
going.
finish it off, yeah.
And so but again, that's just an aid and a tool, and of course all the lineups are in
Mhm.
Strata. I would say that if I was starting out brand new,
Mhm.
uh, Digital Diamond would be my choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every season,
Mhm.
this guy really is working on it. $25.
Yeah, that's a
You
good
can add
deal.
the pictures and the stadiums and the logos.
Mhm.
Again, I've got a lot invested in Strat, and I know it, so that's why I'm using it. But if I was starting from scratch, I think Digital Diamond would be
Yeah.
my choice.
Yeah, I agree. I like the immersion. That's the one downfall of ball stat I use is there's not much visual immersion like you get with those other games. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know if you looked at ball stat. I think you've done a video on, I think,
Yeah,
didn't
no,
you?
I did ball stat. For
Yeah.
me, it was too erratic.
Yeah.
I had some
Yeah.
troubles with it, and it's probably user error, but I would lose stats,
There's some,
and
yeah,
or
funky things with it.
quite
Yeah.
often it would do this game twice.
Right. Right.
And so for me, the price is right. So I mean, if you're willing to work through it, it's definitely a good option. The
Yeah.
guy who created, I think, is deceased, so I don't think there's
Yeah.
anybody working on it or updating it. So
No.
but again, it's an option,
Yeah.
but and again, I've got so much invested in Strat and so many
Yeah.
seasons, it would be dumb for me not to use it because that's what I know. Um,
Yeah.
you know.
I may go to that digital dime on my next one. That ball stat. The only reason I'm sticking with is I have all the ratings entered. Like
Mhm.
Dave was showing that he put his pennant. What's that game he plays? I haven't with
Pocket
the
pennant,
V's pocket pennant. Yeah, I haven't tried that yet. But he put that all. He said how much time he was spending putting the ratings in there. I did that same with this 93 with ball stats. I
and
put all the time invested.
and once you do go to Digital Diamond, you can do that with them too.
Yeah,
You can enter in the ratings.
yeah, I did that with, I actually tried that already with Appa. I put some Appa ratings in Digital Diamond for a
Yeah,
season,
yeah,
and it works nice, but that's the only reason I'm sticking with Ballstat is because I've already invested a lot of time because
sure,
I have
yeah,
as soon as I put the lineup up, it calculates my fielding, team,
mhm.
individual, and I have it right on the screen the whole time, so it's
Yeah,
great.
no,
So,
that's nice. I mean, same way with Strat, again, I
yeah.
know it, and another cool thing about Strat is that I can compare their ratings.
Mhm.
That's one thing I've been really pleased with ATBA. And the basic, I'm doing the advanced where you got the individual, you got the infield, you got the whole team.
Mhm.
So the defense does come into play, but not a ton.
Right.
Not as much as say super advanced Strat, but the ratings are good. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I can compare it with what Strat rated them,
Mhm.
and I'm very pleased. And for me that's a big deal.
Mhm.
Even if it doesn't come into play a lot, I want it to represent the player because I want to know Brooks Robinson is a good third baseman, and
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know Clemente, he's a 3. Brooks is a 6.
Yep.
And so that I've been really pleased with Atba's rating. Again, I
Yeah.
don't agree with every one of them, but they seem very informed,
Mhm.
and really close to what they should be. So
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of maneuverability. You can do it as advanced or as simple as you want.
yeah.
So
Let me see if I had anything else here. Uh, so there's obviously all kinds of different kinds of projects. I think we focused today more on the full season, which is kind
right,
of what I wanted to talk about.
right.
But you've got, and again, there's no right or wrong. If you like series, if you like tournaments, King of the Hill, I know a lot
Right.
of people are getting into that. Kirk Berglund does that quite a bit. If you like Hall of Fame and divvying up the
Yeah,
players, Diamond Gems where you can do greatest
yeah.
teams. or franchise, greatest
Mhm.
players of the
Greatest players.
teams.
Yeah, yeah.
For me personally, I just like I like seasons.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I like, I like the player who played, 6 games at third base in
Mhm.
1959 and, never
Right,
played
right.
again. That interests me. I like that kind of stuff. But,
Yep.
you do playoff, World Series, games, no right or wrong. But again, I really am wanting to focus on the full season, or at least, you
Yeah,
know, teams through a season. Um, we talked about yeah, so I think that's all I had.
yeah. That's, we had a good conversation here,
Yeah, we
RG. That
did.
was, we're on for an hour 25, felt like we were talking for 20 minutes. We're having
Yeah,
so much fun talking about this stuff.
yeah. No, I love it. Again, like we've talked before, I don't have a lot of people around me,
Yeah,
that are interested in it. So, that's why I enjoy YouTube so much, to hear what other people are talking about, and being able to talk to, guys like you in the
yeah.
community has been a real joy.
Yeah,
You know.
you brought up that's a good point, RG. I just got, we just had there was a Pittsburgh APA tournament, about 3, 4 weeks ago up,
Mhm,
it's like an hour north of me, and, it's amazing. You go to these things, there's about 40 guys played in it, and
mhm.
you're in a room with like 40 guys who are like me and you. We're just all talking, APA, playing games, and but you don't get that. Like my day-to-day life, I can't talk about APA with anybody.
Yeah.
My wife's not interested in hearing about it.
Yeah, I mean, my family's very supportive, and they're glad
Yeah.
I got something I enjoy doing. But if I throw a no hitter, there's nobody here that
Yeah.
cares.
Except like Kirk Berglund and Ron,
Yeah,
Dave,
or your
me.
or Facebook page,
Yeah.
posted on Facebook, and so again, that's great, and I think John is right when he talks about how the community, and it's
Mhm.
just not APA, it's, I think the hobby, it has the community, and so
Yeah.
guys like Dave and Ron and, Kurt Berglund, and, I think that does a lot to help us to part of any hobby is sharing it with others. And so,
Yep.
I'm very really thankful for the opportunity to be able to chat with, to see the YouTube videos and to be able to actually,
Yeah.
participate and have chats, because, I think about this stuff probably too much.
Yeah, he's a good guy, John. I go to conventions every year, of course, down in Alpharetta, and that's a big thing. It's more than a game; it's a community. And I think when I was talking to him about like Ron and Dave and their show, because they invited them, and I was talking to him about it. I said these guys get their word out to the community. Like
Hmm.
I mentioned that, and he's like, "Sure, I'm going to do that," because it wasn't just like a marketing. It was like he enjoys that part of the being the owner of APA is like just perpetuating that community part of it, and the friendships that are built, and the memories you have with playing with like relatives, etc. That's big for John. He really
Yeah,
like
I was
that's
really surprised when I saw that he was on there. I thought that he was big enough that
yeah,
that he wouldn't be interested in that. So,
yeah,
that went a long way to impress me,
yeah,
with him, and the company. And again, when you hear the Q&A that you recorded,
mhm,
you realize that he's not going to give everybody the answers they want to hear. But,
right,
for me as a gamer, and if I'm a fan of a particular company, just having the information would be very, very
yeah,
good. Just to know what are you thinking?
yeah,
I've invested a lot. I'm kind of an investor, so to speak.
mhm, mhm,
And so I've got a dog in this fight. And so I want to know what your plans are.
yeah,
I want to know what, even if I disagree, it means a lot to me to know what you're thinking, where you're headed.
mhm,
And the fact that they made every season available, especially if that wasn't something they had done in the
yeah,
past, that says a lot about his business
yeah,
model, and that the thing that impresses me so much about, Pete at Replay,
mhm,
is that he seems to get it.
yeah,
He seems to understand what we as gamers are wanting, and
right,
whether it's
right,
his cards, whether it's his customer service, whether it's his computer game, it's just like I told my wife when I first got Replay, it's like that if I created a Replay computer game,
mhm.
this is what it would be, you
Yeah,
know?
it's near perfect for what we do. I think that
It
PC
is.
game, it's near perfect, with
So
everything.
when John was willing to, to just to let us in on what's
Mhm.
going on and what's the thinking and why. And,
Yeah.
to me, I think that you really build a lot of loyalty.
Mhm.
Matter of fact,
Rapport.
I
Yep.
remember the one guy that you videotaped that he was getting all upset about the complainers in the community,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was defending his his tribe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
John had to kind of, talk him down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's okay. We learned some things from this, but
Uh-huh.
is that kind of loyalty, when you're open and honest and willing to bring your customers into what's going on.
Mhm.
Again, I think that builds a lot of
Yeah.
loyalty, and decisions like making the seasons available. Again, I
Right.
think that says that you understand your clientele and you're willing to make them important and you're listening and so
Right. Right. Yeah, he's a good guy. Good company. It's why I've been playing it since I was like 10 years old. I got it Christmas 1981. So
I
I've been
guess a lot of
fascinated with
people
yeah.
are really I mean, I guess they were on the verge of bankruptcy and closing forever, right?
Yeah, yeah, they had a rough period. So Dick Seitz, the original owner, passed in 1992, and Fritz Light took over the company. And he was like just under Seitz at the company, and he eventually sold it to MMI, which was it was they were in Delaware. They were doing other things besides games, and that's whenever they had those big boxes they would sell and mass produce things, and it just kind of didn't work out too well because MMI, I think, was going out, and Apple was going to be dragged under with them. And that's it was kind of a dark period there. And then that's when John came in, got was able to get a hold of Apple, and it was still a kind of because he was still working. He's a tax attorney, so wherever he was in Atlanta or Wisconsin, and it was being still being run in Lancaster by he had like this longtime employees there, but it wasn't he couldn't dedicate the time he wanted to. But I think once he retired, that's when he started with all the seasons and he moved the company to Atlanta. And then he that's when he really like took off with it. I mean, when that's when he did I'm making every he actually told us all what his game plan was. He's like, my plan is to have every season available, all the stats on the cards, all the master symbols on the cards. And then once we're done with that, we're gonna go to football. We're gonna do everything there. And so he's had a game plan for since 2013 since he moved it. So it did have a dark period there for a while whenever it was things were uncertain, like if they were gonna have a card set.
Well,
So
being a fan of Atba, I'm sure that you have good feelings toward the man.
yeah,
That he is because it seems to be in a really good spot right now.
yeah,
Again, it's got its problems like every game does, and
yeah,
things that you like or don't like. But I mean, again, having a plan and actually seeing that he's actually doing this plan, it's
yeah,
just not talk. And again, as again, if that was your game, that'd make you feel really good about your choice. I
yeah.
think.
He's a smart guy. He's a that's like he's an attorney, obviously, he's a smart guy. So he understands his market, his customers, and there's only so many resources he has too, because it's not a big
Right.
company. I've been in his office down there, and it's not it's him and he has a couple seasonal like some a couple workers there, but they're more like packing orders, so it's not really like some big huge company like some people think. It's just basically one couple people show down there. So,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
he does his
No,
best with that.
yeah. And again, he's honest about it.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah,
I mean, just let me know, like not answering emails,
yeah.
just saying I read them, I'm saving time by not answering them.
Hmm.
If I don't respond, I read it and
Yeah.
I'm taking care of it. And again, I would prefer a response email, but
Mhm.
fine. I get that. At least you're letting me know what's going on. You're just not, leaving me hanging, are they reading these or not?
Mhm.
They are, and so I've actually done that. I know I bought I think it was a football set and the last three cards were bent.
Uh-huh.
When they closed the box, I guess it bent the cards.
Mhm.
And so I sent him an email, showed, took a picture of the cards
Mhm.
and never responded back. But like a week and a half
You
later,
get
I
the
got
stuff.
I got the three cards. So
That's like that happened to Dave too. Remember he bought the hockey and if something got messed up with the order, then like he sent me an email, then all of a sudden he gets this big package in the mail, and it was like more than what he
Yeah.
correction. So
Right.
he does he does do that, and he's really quick on time. He has a lot of stuff coming at him.
But
So
letting us know,
yeah,
again, I would like a response email, but
yeah,
letting me know that you're not, but you're taking care of it,
yeah,
again, we can live with that, and just
yeah,
communicating, any business,
yeah.
communication is huge,
Hmm.
and just, again, you may not like it, but just letting me know what's going on goes a long way, for me to feel good about our relationship.
Yeah,
But anyway, yeah, we've gone an hour and a half, so
yeah. We have a good
I
conversation,
yeah,
RG.
I really appreciate that. I wanted
Yeah,
I've been wanting to do this for a while because, again, not finishing something has been weighing on my mind, and so I thought, being able to talk to you because I know that you've got that
yeah,
steroid thing going and have made some really good headway with that, picking
yeah,
your brain, getting your thoughts. So it's been very helpful and motivational. So hopefully it'll
yeah.
help others. But I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, just stay with it. Like that's the biggest best advice I could say is like don't let it fall to the wayside. Just stay on it and keep it front and center. Still do other things, but keep it front and center. You're gonna get there, I'm sure.
All right, very good. All right, man. I'll talk to you
All
later.
right. See ya, RG. Take it easy.
You too.
Bye bye.